Hello guys, God bless. Hope everyone's doing well. I noticed that my last video was a little soft-spoken in it, so I'm gonna try to speak up a little bit in this one. This is part 3, but video 13. If that confuses you, the past 3 videos, the longer ones, kind of combine some of the information that I've learned. Um, the I'm kind of at a standstill after I made this one, and then I was just kind of praying and thinking, and the Lord brought something to my attention that um, I'll cover in the next one. So just continuing on, hope everyone's doing well. Uh, this is going to cover the actual sin itself. This study came into my hands kind of a strange way. I kind of described that in some of the previous videos. I saw a post on Facebook, and that was in part 1. There was a little extraction there from a Facebook post, and that talked about the fruit and child being the same, and that post gave some interesting verses, some interesting discussion um, that I never really, put with the original sin. I never really understood how it kind of went together. I found it interesting, but I never really studied it. So that was in the back of my mind. I always knew that Cain was of the devil. It made sense to me with the Genesis 6 and Enoch and everything else. So the Bible even states this, of course, and we know in John 3:12, you have the two seeds, mutual hatred. It's not a surprise. For some, it is. um, so it, as this study fell into my lap, my wife had a dream. She's had some dreams before that she doesn't even really know anything about. It's almost like God uses her so that maybe she doesn't read into it. I don't really know. But she had dreamed that she was with child, and she didn't realize she was even pregnant. We don't have children. The next thing she knew, this child was on a table, like a gurney for children, and we're both looking at this child. I was kind of indifferent, and that's the word she used. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it, but I simply looked at it in an indifferent type of way. She asked me, what should we name him? And the sex wasn't known, but that's just the word I've chosen to use here. I gave no reply and simply looked at the child indifferently, kind of like, what is this? What happened? And that was the dream. And as I began to do the study, I felt in my spirit, this is how Adam would have felt, kind of indifferent to what Eve had done. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. It just kind of almost like God was, and the study has come pretty easy. Like everything just kind of falls into place. So I give all credit to him because I'm not here slaving away trying to look everything up, and it just comes easy, like he's putting thoughts into my mind, or look at this, go look at that. Do you remember like the beam verse? I never would have thought of that, and he kind of brought that to my attention, and trees, and so it's kind of, um, for lack of better words, fallen into my lap essentially. And I have other reasons I think for that are personal to me. Uh, but I think if you understand what I mean, then you'll get it. So anyway, um, when we look at the verse above, we see it comes from John 3:12, and when we look at Genesis 3:12, what does it say? And the man said to the woman, who thou gavest with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. So who was Cain? He was of the tree. He was of the wicked tree, the wicked one. I just thought it was kind of neat how, and this is like what I'm talking about. The Lord just was like, go look at Genesis 3:12. So um, he partook. He took the child. Now we're going to get into something right down here, so I won't discuss it just yet. So she offered him the fruit, and she gave me of the tree, and that was Cain. That was the son, that they had. Um, of the tree would be the fruit. The tree would be Satan. Of course, the fruit would be Cain, of the wicked one. It all falls right into place, very simply. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's something I want to dispel, or at least discuss from the beginning of this. If Eve had sex with Satan, all right, and produced this fruit, did Adam also have sex with Satan? Now, don't stop, don't turn off the video. I don't believe he did, but there are some that don't, that could go either way. I've got my mind made up. I don't think he did, But there's some very interesting things, and there's some things that we're going to look at, and I'll give you my conclusion, what I feel in my spirit of what actually happened. We know the tree was a carob tree. Now, that doesn't mean it just produced the carob fruit, okay? There was also trees that had other fruits that were produced. And I know it talks about the 12 fruits coming from one tree in heaven. So just keep that in mind. But this is an expert from the book of Enoch, and it tells it was the carob tree, the fruit, the clusters of vine, very beautiful fragrance. And it goes on, the angel tells him, this is the tree of wisdom, which your father in years and aged mother were there and have eaten and learned wisdom, and their eyes were open. So it's point blank. Some of these trees hermaphrodites, meaning they have, I think, both sexes. Okay, so um, I thought that was an interesting find. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Satan had sex with Adam. So here's what's laid on my spirit. Okay, first off, Adam never went to the tree. Okay, he never went to it. Eve came to him and offered him the fruit, the knowledge and wisdom and child. Okay, Adam took the fruit and he became, I believe, a collaborator in the sin. Also, remember, God said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife. Okay, that's key because that's what God says he did wrong. All right, Eve partook. Adam listened to the voice of his wife. That's the sin right there, I believe. Okay, in that phrase. All right, now I'd have to look at the Bible verse where that's at, but that's when God's pronounced. It's around Genesis 3:15, somewhere in there. You also remember Adam and Eve were of one flesh. Okay, so God, did he see them as one or two separate? I'm not sure. But Adam probably could have said, he probably could have cut her off and said, that's it, you're done, you're out. You took part of that tree, I don't want nothing to do with it. And then God probably would have intervened, and who knows what would have happened, I don't know. But he didn't, and I think it's a lesson in love, and it's a lesson of forgiveness. That's what I feel. Um, God saw them in that respect as well, possibly as one flesh. Adam probably could have banished Eve, but instead he became a participant, loving his wife. He took on the curse for her sake. It was a sin that he did commit willfully, however, but it also showed love to his wife. And I just, once again, in forgiveness, it's all pre planned by the Father, I think, just to teach us the valuable lessons. So just keep that in mind. And we go back to the hermaphrodite thing. There's a lot of pictures, with him at breast and penis and everything else, but I don't feel that's the case in the garden. The Bible never refers to Satan as a she, it's always a he. God did not create him that way. He would have made him male or female. It could be within Satan's power to change his sexuality. We do it, you know. So what could stop him? I don't know. I just don't feel that's the case in the garden. So anyway, one of my favorite verses is my birthday, 2:23. Anyway, and Adam said, "This is not bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Okay. Touch. But the fruit of the tree that was in the midst of the garden, God that said, "You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die." Touch can also mean to lie with a woman. Okay? It's a strike. Satan struck. This was his attack. All right, to lay with a woman was his attack to destroy mankind. It was a strike against humanity to insert his seed into mankind to destroy it in God's sight. Just like he was destroyed from God's sight. He doesn't want anything, he doesn't want us to have anything he can't have. And that's just another reference here, to be to strike down, to smite. And that was his attack. That word is naga. Okay, kind of interesting. Sometimes I've noticed what Satan likes to do, and remember, this is his world, he controls a lot of it, is take like the Hebrew word for something, and he'll, if you look it up in another language or something of that nature, or English, what does it mean in English? There's always some sort of little like jab at it. And I think this is the case here. Naga in Hindu um, represents serpent deities, serpent gods, okay, which I thought was kind of interesting. Taking the form of a great snake, okay. Here you have a male and female statue with a snake intertwined with both of them. Depicts man and woman intertwined there. For God know that the day that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. The eyes opened, and eyes in general, goes so deep, folks. I'm going to show you a video real quick by a friend of mine, Enter the Stars, and he takes the anatomy and puts it towards the kingdom of heaven. Remember, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within, and when he made the body, he made certain things, certain body parts to depict things, and I'll show you that here in a second. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth flock; the sword shall be upon his arm, and upon his right eye, and his arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. This is the good eye. This is Satan, okay, the idle shepherd. Lord told me a long time ago, idle shepherd means two things. Idle as in lazy, because he doesn't do anything for you. In fact, he, how did Lord put it? He's lazy, so he's going to mark his people. And when he marks his people, they will become his. That's how he does it. He puts them in a situation where it seems like a no-win. You know, I got no food, no water. Boom, I go get the mark. Now I'm under this idle shepherd. Also, idle meaning the idle as in not only lazy, but also the idle as in worship shepherd. Jesus is the good shepherd. He dies. He lays down his life for his flock. He worked for our salvation. Okay, or worked to save us, essentially, to be our shepherd. Satan's good eye was utterly darkened, meaning there is no good in him at all. Someone once asked the question, could Satan repent? I would say no, he cannot. Not only will he can't, I would say he never will. He sees evil continually. That's just the way it is. God darkened his right eye. There is no good. He sees nothing good. Before Adam and Eve ate the fruit, it was all about the Lord. The I am, knowledge, wisdom were temptations to Adam and Eve to be like gods, to know both good and evil, thus opening their eyes to evil and shame. Remember this from the other video. Why you beholdest the mote in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam in your own eye. The word beam here does mean wood. Wood, of course, comes from the trees, so you have that sinful nature in your own eyes. If we also look at the word bone in the verse above, or was it? Right there, 223, 223. Bone meant strength, protection, which also means it also means eyes shut. The Lord had our eyes to evil shut out for our own good. It was for our own protection. But as soon as Adam and Eve partook, their eyes were open to sin, death, sorrow, anguish, and the relationship they had with the Father was tarnished. I'm going to go ahead and play the video real quick of Enter the Stars here. Hold on. This is just going to be 3 minutes long. I might do another one. We'll see. But this is give you a decent understanding of what the eyes are actually all about.
Stars, the Nuclear Security Summit 2014 decoded. March 24th was the last day of the year in the Julian calendar. So the 24th and 25th is the new year of the Julian calendar, according to Wikipedia. And that is what these people are all about. Rome. This is the summit. What you're looking at the top is the path of the sun. And the summit table is in fact the inside of the eyes of good and evil. The tree of knowledge that Eve ate of, that we are trapped in, the dimension that we are trapped in. The enemy wants to be like the Most High, So he copies all of the elements of the world that we live in, the prison. You see the pyramid, but that is not the correct pyramid of the dominion that they have. They have the reverse pyramid facing downwards with the false light, the false eye from the outside looking in, just like Eve's lens cap of her eyes were removed and she knew she was naked at that point after eating of that dimensional tree. You also see the cube within the pyramid. Now, what I'm going to show you next, we've covered on a previous video, and it is the mathematical equation to the prison that we live in. The 3773 cube star matrix, and they know exactly what it is because they showed it to us at the 2014 summit in the Netherlands on the Julian New Year, which is everything we've been talking about on this channel. But no one seems to understand. This is the mathematics of the prison, the secret to 369, and the secret to the universe. The 37 makes up the cube, the 73 makes up the star. Those are the two objects, and the enemy wants dominion over both, but he never will, because Jesus has another plan. Take care and be safe, you guys.
All right, I'm going to show you one more. This is kind of the first one I think he made. He got several of these. It's hard to know which one was the first, but anyway, this is a pretty good one.
Hey guys, enter the stars, and all I can say is wow. When we ponder the things of heaven, and the truth becomes self-evident. Thanks to the subscriber who mentioned to me all of the eye devices that we have that try to replace the I am with the eye of the material world instead of the eye with.
And that's where we're going to go with this, guys. That's exactly what happened to Adam and Eve. It goes back to Numbers 11 when they came out of Egypt, when they came out of the world. They wanted something better. They're eating the manna. They wanted something better. They're like, hey, we're God's children. Why are we suffering? And they wanted to go, and they saw something better that they thought was better, and it was a lie.
The Greek word for E-Y-E, I. We have the apple. The apple is, of course, the fruit, the forbidden fruit of the garden. And when Eve partook of the fruit, her eyes were opened, and she could see into the outer world. This is important because inside the apple, we have shown you the scarab, and the scarab beetle forms the torus field, the toroidal field. The torus is the Coriolis. It is the apple. This looks like an apple. And this is the image we see against the night sky at the equator. Remember, this is it. This is the secret that they didn't want us to know. But now we know. And when Eve took a bite of the apple, her eye was opened. So, what does this look like? This is the eye, the apple of my eye. And so again, when we start to ponder the things of the spiritual, our eyes are open and we see, we understand the secrets And now more than ever, I'm coming to believe that what we've stumbled upon is the ultimate truth of our universe, which brings us far closer to God. And it reveals Lucifer and its false light for what it is, trying to claim and establish his throne in the heavens above the Most High, and to try to be like him with his Luciferian eye above the top of the pyramid, trying to claim that dominion. But now we know the truth, and we can see it clearly. The apple is the eye. This is your lens. This is the surface of planet Earth. Or we may live under this dome. And this is the middle of your eye. Where standing on this dome, you see the night sky like a torus field, as seen in images like this and this, branching off in divergent directions, with the middle being straight up and down. Wow. Unbelievable.
It's amazing. So that since our eyes were opened, now we have our choice. We see both good and evil, and the choice is ours to make. Um, it's just amazing. So anyway, that's the channel right there. You can go there and check out. He's got tons of them on the eye and what it does. The woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was pleasant to the eyes, to be desired, to make one wise. She took the fruit thereof and did eat, and also gave it to her husband with her, and he did eat. So remember, there's nothing about him going to the tree. Okay. The woman saw. We always see the sin. We always see first with our eyes. It's always something with the eyes. We see the same story with the king of Israel, David. From off his bed he walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired. He went after it about the woman. Her name was Bathsheba. David sent messages and took her. Right? Saw, inquired, and then took. And then he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanliness. The woman conceived. Do you see the pattern here? And she wrote in the letter saying, he wrote this, David, saying, set Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle and retire from him, that he may be smitten and die. And he died. It always brings death. It always will bring death. Sin brings death. He saw, he chased, it was pleasant, he went, he picked the fruit, he lay with her, she conceived, and then there was death as a result. A great story. I love this story. I love this Uriah. He came back and David said, go lay with your wife. And he's like, my soldiers are out. I'm not going to go do that if they can't do that. So anyway, that's just a personal thing for me. But anyway, I love that story. Pleasant to the eyes. Pleasant meaning lusting, greedily. Strong, desirous, long lust. And then the same word, if you go back to these roots, 183, 69:14, right here, 69:14 and 13, comes back to death, graves, burying place, death. You got to do the homework. So pleasant to the eyes not only means she lusted, but what was the ultimate end result? It was death. Her son Abel. I did a word study on pleasant. It took me to Numbers 11 and found some very interesting bits of information. Here's a synopsis and how it ties with our current study. The chapter begins with the people of Israel complaining about what the Lord had provided for them, which was manna. They had complained that they had been taken out of Egypt and are now in the wilderness and surviving by eating manna. The Father was displeased by their groaning, and he consumed, that's my problem there, consumed some of them by fire. Moses intercedes in prayer, and the Father subsides. And it states, verse 4, the children fell to lusting, who will give us flesh to eat. Remember what the fruit was. It was skin, flesh, and also the stone. Let me take your heart of stone from your flesh and replace it with a heart of flesh. Remember that. Who will give us flesh to eat? Remember the fish, the cucumbers, the garlic, the melons? They were being taken out of the world. Egypt is the world, and they couldn't hack it. God was weaning them essentially off the needs of the world. Rely on Him for everything. And yeah, it's going to be hard. You know why? Because of the sin. It's going to be difficult. Toil, anguish, sorrows, all those things to give birth. Birthing of a nation here, right? It's going to be difficult. That's the whole key. Adam and Eve did not eat flesh either. At a minimum, the Bible says they ate of every tree. They named their animals, but the Bible does not say that they consumed any. Now, the other men and women might have. I don't think they did either, though, have eaten flesh. The Bible states that they were also herb-yielding seed, and it was for meat. It talked about them with the fish and the animals, so I'm not sure exactly. It doesn't specify exactly, and I might have said something different in the other video. I apologize for that. In verse 7, the manna was like the colander seed, and the color thereof was the color of bdellium, which goes back to our river. The name of the first river is Pison. It encompassed the whole land of Havilah, and there is gold, and the golden land was good, and there was bdellium in the onyx stone. This is the only two places in the Bible bdellium's mentioned, here and here. So it's got to tie those things together for us. I think it does. Because they were lusting, they were wanting these things, they were wanting fish, they were wanting meat to eat. And of course, Father was displeased because he's providing this manna. Eat the manna, do what you're told, follow orders. And of course, they were like, in Egypt we had everything. This is also the same chapter when we go back to our last video where Moses appoints 70, of course with him and Aaron, be 72 elders, and the commission to assist him in leading Israel. In verse 17, I will come down and talk to you and take the spirit that's upon you and put it upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, and you shall not bear it alone. And the Lord says, and this is paraphrased, they want flesh, I will give them so much it'll come out of their nose, is essentially what God says to them. So do you want to see the parallels here? We always want what we cannot have. It's a sorry state. We'll never be satisfied. And the flesh is never satisfied. That's why fasting is important and all those things. You're denying the flesh. You're denying what feels right, what feels good. This is what happened to Adam and Eve. They wanted what they could not have. The tormentors in Egypt beat the Israelites daily. Finally, when the Lord set them free, their attitude was like, well, even though I was getting beaten, they did have some good melons. I sure wish I could have those now. It's kind of what they were thinking. It is the same also with us in this world. God has to take you out of the dependence of this world. And we are so very dependent on this world. We've grown so dependent on our government. It's disgusting. I was sharing one time with a friend of mine who's a Christian, and I was like, 911, what does that mean? Why 911? It goes back to Revelation 9:11. The king, the little k, the king of this world. It's Abaddon, Apollyon, it's Satan. Call upon me when you're in trouble. It's a mockery to God. Call 911 if you're in trouble. It's a mockery. That's exactly what it is. If we really trusted the Lord and we really followed him and we really desired to be his children, okay, then we would trust him and we wouldn't have to call on 911. All right, we would put our faith and trust in him. I'm not saying don't be stupid. You don't walk out into a car, walk out into the highway not expected to get hit by a car because God is going to save you. There's responsibilities to go with this, okay? But what I am saying is this is a mockery, and it's an obvious mockery to me. So trust him, trust in God, trust his plan, let his will be done in your life. And that's what I pray every day. My prayers are never really extravagant. They're very simple. I pray for the lost, I pray for the brokenhearted, and I pray for the people that are having troubles and things like that. But I pray for His will to be done in my life. That's what it comes down to. I'm not sure why this is acting up. What a mess. Okay, sorry about that. To be desired to make one wise. Just the root words there. It's the same thing. It was in exchange for sex to make one wise. It's the same thing in Genesis 6. We've already discussed that. Genesis 6. I'll give you wisdom and knowledge on how to do certain things, but at the same time, I'm taking you. Okay. Eve desired wisdom. It's the same desire as the daughters of men. And the Lord said, and the Lord God said unto the woman, what is that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me. For some reason, beguiled doesn't come up in my little program, this one here that I use. But I did search it on the internet, and this is what I found: to be deceived or to seduce. So we know that beguiled is, it's not, it's obvious what it is. Once again, go back to the Hindu. You have the Hebrew word for beguiled is nasha. It means to seduce. We saw with Hindu version of Naga the similar comparison with the serpents. This right here, nasha, was a movie, and it also means intoxicated in Hindu. And this is about a boy who falls in love with his teacher, and it's seduction type movie. That's something definitely if you want to check out on your own. All right, so if I were to continue in order, the next logical step would be for me to address the judgments that God gives Adam: toil of the earth, birth pains, on your belly you shall go. I discussed those in other videos, so I put them here. This is talking about the dust that Satan will eat. To have knowledge, to know, carnal knowledge is what that ties into. On your belly is pretty interesting. I'm not sure where the Lord wants me to really go from here, so I prayed tonight, and I'm just I know our time is short. I really feel a sense of urgency with some of this stuff. But anyway, those are some videos to check out from here at this point. Am I going to put all these together on a PDF? I'm not sure yet. But that's where we're at right now, and as He leads me, I will go. All right, guys. God bless you all, and I'll see you all soon. And I'm excited. Take care. Be safe.